Hello, BookTube. Well, I know I complained just recently that it being a federal holiday deprived me of mail. That turned out to not to be true. Not only did the roadways of America deliver me mail, they also delivered me a book critic. So we have a small mail haul here that we're just going to have to make do with two of the country's six weekly book critics. We've only got this between us, so we'll be picking over the bones in no time. And what do you suppose this is?
Do you think you have it in you to elaborate on books?
I'm kind of shy. Look at this thing. That's weekly for a newspaper. Weekly for a newspaper. What am I supposed to do with this?
Looks like a compact disc that was sent in the 90s.
Really, Grandpa? What were they like? What could this be? Slim volume of poetry, perhaps? Some aphorisms from Sarah Manguso? Oh my. Oh, look at this. This is G.W. Bowersock, The Crucible of Islam. He's a great classicist. He's a great classical scholar. This comes out in April. It's a tiny little thing from Harvard University Press. What a weird thing.
Was it written as a speech, or as a conference, or as a...
Little is known about Arabia in the 6th century CE. Okay, it's 6th century AD, Anno Domini, meaning the year of the Lord, and enough is known about 6th century Arabia to fill, I don't know, a library in 6th century Arabia, but that's all right.
My people use CE and BCE, Common Era.
You know, BookTube, as I've mentioned many times on this channel, sometimes I have it up to here with the chosen people. Where was I anyway? Yet from this distant time and place emerged a faith and an empire that stretched from the Iberian Peninsula to India. Today, Muslims account for nearly a quarter of the global population. In the Crucible of Islam, Bowersock seeks to illuminate the most obscure and yet most dynamic period in the history of Islam, from the mid-6th century to mid-7th century. I wouldn't think that would be obscure. Isn't that right at the heart of the birth of Islam?
That's when it began, isn't it? Isn't that after?
Those of you who know better. The two book critics aren't covering themselves in glory with this first book. Wasn't that? I don't know.
Isn't there a guy named Muhammad?
I know. Let's just move on to the next book, shall we? As you can tell, I'm still dealing with the effluvia of my affliction. It's settled in my lungs. Let's see what this one is. C.E. I mean, I ask you, what is the point? What is the point? You're still delineating it along the life of one person. So why say era instead of before and after? This is a new biography of Hannibal. Steve is suddenly happy again. Oh my. Look at that. See, he walks the fiction beat, ladies and gentlemen. So he'll never review this. It's never going to happen. That's a shame. Oh my. To this day, Hannibal of Carthage is still regarded as a military genius. Napoleon, George Patton, and Norman Schwarzkopf. There's a trio for you right there. What's Schwarzkopf doing there? Unless he wrote it. Then it would make perfect sense, because he always made those comparisons. Are only some of the general who studied and... Okay. All right, it's plural, so it's supposed to be generals, but that's all right. Who studied and admired him. This is pretty rocky. Norman Schwarzkopf never studied anything in his life. Okay, because that would require paying attention to words, and he never did that. But that's okay.
But he was Stormin' Norman.
Yeah, he was Stormin' Norman. Yeah, he's famous for... Well, most of you, according to my Google Analytics, most of you have no idea who he is, and he was in his heyday before you were born. He was a general who invaded Persia on behalf of an American president. And when he was told, stop here, he went in front of press cameras and said, well, I don't really see why I have to stop here. Got the tanks and everything. And was fired the same day. But anyway, his strategy and tactics are still taught in military academies. You know, people always say that. It's never true. West Point does not teach you the strategies of Hannibal.
In case you need to cross the Alps on an elephant.
On an elephant, yes. They don't do it. It doesn't happen. I don't know why people keep saying that. Historian and archaeologist Patrick Hunt has led expeditions in the Alps and elsewhere to study Hannibal's achievements. Now he brings Hannibal's incredible story to life in this riveting and dramatic book. All right, so that allows me to cover a little ground. I can reclaim a little ground that I lost in the crucible of Islam. We'll move on here. Oh, it's a little lonely for you guys. None of your made-up stories yet. Oh, maybe this one will have upper middle class Connecticut divorce. Oh no! Oh no! Oh goodness gracious! This is still tilting strongly in Steve's favor. This one is Dispelling the Darkness: A Jesuit Quest for the Soul of Tibet. This is also Harvard University Press. God, they're pumping out the books here. Margot Leonard is the publicity person. In the remote Himalayan village in 1721, the Jesuit priest Ippolito Desideri awaited permission from Rome to continue his mission to convert the Tibetan people to Christianity. In the meantime, he forged ahead with an ambitious project, a treatise written in classical Tibetan that would refute key Buddhist documents. If he could convince the Buddhist monks that these doctrines were false, he would dispel the darkness of idolatry from Tibet.
Suddenly they would use BC and AD in their dates.
As well they should, the barbarians. But this isn't the book. This is a book about his book.
It's a history of that.
This is not, there's a fascinating glimpse of the historical encounter between Christianity and Buddhism. Brings Desideri's Tibetan writings to readers of English for the first time. Okay, so this is his book? I suppose I'd have to open it and find out, wouldn't I? God, can you imagine the uphill battle of finding a review for this thing? Who will review this? There's no chance the New York Review of Books will do it. No chance the New Republic will do it, or Harper's.
I suppose there are some Christian-oriented
Tablet
journals.
Might do it.
Yeah, First Things maybe, or.
But no general mainstream press would do this in a million years.
I don't know.
The reviewer would spend all of the word count just telling you about the book without ever. I guess with a book like this, maybe you're not really concerned about how well it's done. If it's breaking ground, I don't know. It's
no, someone is getting tenure writing a book like this.
Yeah. It's not the sort of thing even I would think about reviewing. And that's your last line of hope if you're writing historical incunabula in America. But this does have the text of the book and a thorough analysis of it. Okay, so this comes out in April. It's a bit of an uphill slog, but wow, even for me, that's God bless Harvard University Press. They must have given that author some money. They brought it out. It'll be in a nice, handsome edition. That's wonderful. That's the lifeblood of nonfiction publishing in America.
The Jesuits went everywhere, didn't they?
They went everywhere. Dispelling darkness.
Apparently.
What they were trying to do. See. It didn't always work, but... Is this Harvard University Press again? Oh my God, it is. Okay. All right. Okay. It'll be all right. We have one more shot here. This is before Orthodoxy, the Satanic verses in early Islam. This is starting to feel a little bit like a dump mail day. This is the last intern out of the mailroom 2 days ago.
You're going to be an expert in early Islam in
Yes, I am.
Couple
it's
of
not
months.
a safe thing to be an early expert on, because if you opine the wrong way, you've all of a sudden got 100 hate comments in your comments field. Okay, so this is the final book by Shahab Ahmed, a gifted scholar whose previous work, What is Islam?, was a groundbreaking and significant achievement in Islamic scholarship. Why is this the last book? You lazy sod. Why is he given up? At the time of his death from... Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, my. at the time of his very unfortunate death from leukemia in 2015, Shahab was, according to Harvard law professor Noah Feldman, the most brilliant and creative scholar of Islam in his generation. This book wrestles with the question of how religions establish truth, especially religions such as Islam that lack a centralized authority to codify beliefs. And it's about the satanic verses, but it cannot possibly. No index. It makes you wonder how much they're going to mention. I mean, you're right on the edge of Harvard University Press is right on the edge of courting radical Islamic backlash. If it's a book about the satanic verses, I mean that. No, it's scholarly, so maybe it isn't as likely to subject to blasphemy. But even so, in some conservative Islamic schools of thought, isn't any analysis blasphemy? I don't know. I don't know. This you're not exactly catching us on our best mail haul. Maybe we should ask this Andrew Martin character to expound a little on his book. Okay, so Shahab Ahmed is dead, and this is his last book. I feel a little bad mouthing off about him being lazy when he was, in fact, it reminds me of that line from Time Bandits when Sir Ralph Richardson appears as God. And he's wondering why one of the Time Bandits who's buried under a gigantic marble column isn't helping to clean things up, and his grief-stricken friends have to say, "Oh, sir, he's dead." And Ralph Richardson says, "No excuse for laying off work." And he causes the column to fly up into the air, and he causes the Time Bandit to come back alive, and his friends are all jubilant and thanking him, and finally he says, "Well, I am the nice one." That's no excuse for laying off work. All right, so this is our last Harvard University Press book.
I'm impressed you found a way to change the subject from something you didn't know how to bloviate about to
something I did know how to bloviate about. He's impressed, but he's not surprised. He's kind of the world's expert on seeing it happen. I am the nice one. Oh, there you go.
I saw that.
There you go. Not only fiction, but upper middle class Connecticut divorce. This is The People We Hate at the Wedding by Grant Ginder. Notice I strenuously avoided the Freudian slip that comes hand in hand with his surname, Ginder. His last name is Ginder. Weddings are enchanting occasions that bring family and friends together. Publicist obviously isn't Irish. To celebrate the love of two soulmates. Oh, for God's sake, look if she's met him on the night of the wedding. In Southie, anyway. But somehow a ceremony of love can bring out so much hate. I feel more comfortable already. People We Hate at the Wedding. Flatiron Books. Do you get a lot of Flatiron Books?
I do.
They seem to have undergone a change in their acquiring it. Have you noticed that? The impression I get is that their fiction line is much stronger than it was in years past.
Last year they had one of my favorite books of the year.
Well, don't keep us in suspense.
The Story of a Brief Marriage. The book set during the Sri Lanka Civil War. A pick-me-up of a book.
He has to deal with this stuff on a weekly basis.
It's set in a refugee camp that's being shelled. And it's beautifully written.
Run, don't walk to your nearest bookstore. Don't wait for the Adam Sandler adaptation. Let's see here. Our author reveals the uncensored look at the family behind the wedding. Eloise's London nuptials to a posh Brit reunite her Midwest half-siblings and divorced parent for the first time in years, and enough emotional baggage to take down their transatlantic flights. Even though it takes a heavy doses of persuasion and alcohol to get them all to the wedding, this family finds the further you stretch the ties that bind, the tighter they hold you close. So who are the people we hate at the wedding? Okay, this comes out in June. And who is Grant Ginder, or when he's at home? This is kind of a pretty thing. He's obviously sinking money into it. But who is the author? Here he is. I haven't read anything about him. I have a suspicion we're going to encounter the word Brooklyn. But let's see. Grant Ginder is the author of This Is How It Starts and Driver's Education. He received his MFA from NYU, where he teaches writing. He lives in Brooklyn. A few summers ago, on a train back to the city from a wedding, a friend of Grant's pulled out 2 bottles of Pinot Grigio, which he had managed to snag from the reception, and which they proceeded to finish in about 45 minutes.
Wow. 45 minutes for 2 bottles of wine. That's pretty wild.
Give that a bit of a run for its money in just a little while. But we won't be filming that booktube because this is a family channel. And I shouldn't say we either, since the disproportion is going to be rather marked. But that's all right. It'll still be book talk. Right to the bitter end, it'll still be book talk. As the train winded its way towards Manhattan, the friend turned to Grant with glassy eyes and said, "Okay, people we hated at the wedding, go." The next day, Grant started writing. Because God forbid he think up an idea. So what do you think? On your radar for June?
Of course.
Look at this. Oh, that's kind of good. The back, look who's already RSVP'd, and then they have the blurbs. That's kind of neat. All right, so we finally got a made-up story about upper middle class Danite divorce, quite literally. And then before orthodoxy, the satanic verses in early Islam, then dispelling the darkness, a Jesuit's quest for the soul of Tibet, then a biography of Hannibal, and then the crucible of Islam by a classical scholar that I could easily see writing a biography of Hannibal. So that is our holiday mail haul. Not much to pick from. There's one that will likely go to you, and the Hannibal book will likely go to me. Other than that, we're just going to have to wait until tomorrow, when the mail volume will be back up to normal. And unfortunately, the volume of critics will be back down to normal as well. Sorry about that, BookTube. But you win some, you lose some. Thank you.